First, I want to say something about the Caddx Ratel. In my last video, I was talking about the other lens that Caddx is supposed to be developing or looking for this camera in order to improve things. Well, this is that improved lens. I just received it yesterday, and I would highly advise you to stay away from this lens. The lens distortion on this lens is some of the worst distortion I have seen on any lens in the past 2 years. Would strongly advise you to stay away from this lens. This is the CineBee, I don't know what it is, from iFlight. And I have taken somewhat of an interest in these CineWhoops because they do have a very interesting allure to the consumer, and I do think that they have kind of positioned themselves to be a pretty strong class in and of themselves. So first I'll review this quad really quickly. This is in the same category as the Beta 85 CineWhoop or whatever, the thing that has a Caddx camera, whatever, on board. And first I'll actually define what a CineWhoop is, or CineWhoop is. It's essentially a whoop size quad that has a Caddx or Runcam split or turtle on board, which is just an HD camera. And it's small, it's light, and it's whoop size, and you can fly it like a whoop and you get HD video out of it. That's essentially the definition of a CineWhoop. The Beta 85 was really not great. However, it did have some good power, and it was okay. It wasn't great. The flight performance was just not stellar, and this is similarly not the greatest flight performance. I'll go over that in a minute. Let me just talk about this thing in general. So compared to the Beta HD, 85 HD, this is using a totally different electronic stack. It's using the iFlight 16x16 stack, which has a 12 amp 4S ESC board, 16x16 board underneath here is what you're looking at, and I can't believe it, but it's actually performing really surprisingly good. I'm really shocked on the performance. I'll tell you why in a minute. But this stack has an F4 flight controller built in. It's got a 200 milliwatt VTX on top, and it's all independent, which means if something does burn out, you can just replace that one board. It performs admirably, really nicely in this quad, and I have to say, this thing, the electronics perform stellar. I could not find an issue with the electronics. Now, the overall performance of the quad, can't say the same thing. This actually has the Caddx turtle on board, and it's underneath here. It's also really nice that it has this little tab here that holds the memory card in, so in the event that in a crash, it doesn't actually pop your memory card out. You won't lose your memory card. This is the dongle here to actually control the turtle settings on board with the little controller, and the whole thing is built really nicely. It is really sturdy. It's a lot less flexible than pretty much any other thing of this size that I've felt. The prop guards do feel like they can break. They are made of hard plastic. However, they're also not that difficult to replace either. It's 3 screws and the whole prop guard comes out. I'm pretty sure they're going to sell independent prop guards as well. The base frame is carbon fiber, and yeah, I'm really impressed with the performance of this. Oh yeah, and also the turtle, now when you plug it in, it starts recording, and when you unplug the power, it stops recording and saves the video file. I cannot explain how huge of an improvement that is. It is truly an amazing experience to not have to worry about your video saving and not having to push a little stupid button to actually save your video. That's a huge departure from the Beta 85 HD, because it was using the previous version of the turtle that did not have that feature. So definitely something I want to point out there. I cannot stress how useful that feature is alone, and that feature alone would sell me on this quad over the Beta 85. If I didn't make it very clear, I like the electronic stack on this board a whole lot better, and the flight performance is very similar. This is also a much smaller quad. But now let's get to the performance aspect of these things. First of all, these are the HQ 40, 41 millimeter, whatever props. And the props that it actually also came with are the GemFan 40, 41, whatever size props. I like the HQ props a whole lot better than the GemFan props. Sorry, GemFan, I don't mean anything negative, but both of them perform pretty awful, but at least the HQ props were a lot better in terms of throttle control. So let's talk about the performance of this quad. Something you probably already noticed in the video is that this thing doesn't perform that great. It's definitely not an acro quad, and I know a lot of people have told me in the past I need to chill and just fly it like a CineWhoop and not like an acro quad, and I understand that. The problem is that even when I fly it like an acro quad, the performance on this thing is massively lacking, just frustratingly lacking. It's so challenging to weave through tight spaces and actually make your way around the track that you want to make your way around. Additionally, the throttle is so unpredictable that you cannot even maintain a stable, like, just cruise. You just have to keep the throttle in one position to cruise. And if you do need to increase or lower the throttle, it's super unpredictable. Sometimes you get a jump up when you don't intend for it to jump up, and sometimes it doesn't jump up when you want it to jump up. It's just not good. And that is probably due to the prop guards. These are not ducts. These are, I mean, you call them ducts, but they don't perform like a duct. There isn't a close enough gap between the edge. There isn't even the shape of the duct or prop guard is not even such that it performs like a duct. I know everybody's thinking, oh, it's going to increase the thrust. But in reality, in order to get that increase of thrust, you have to expel so much more power in the form of amps to actually move the air through the duct for it to act like an extra wing of some sort and give you some extra thrust, some extra thrust. That does not happen on these little tiny whoops. Yes, it is possible to make it happen. However, like I said, you're going to be just burning battery to make that work out for you. So don't think of these as ducts. They're just prop guards. And as prop guards, they work really great on this quad. However, they also restrict the thrust coming off the prop. So the motors and the ESC and everything needs to work much harder for this thing to actually perform. And that's also probably why it's so unpredictable, because the performance is not. Probably if they put a wider motor on this thing, you could probably get more consistent performance out of it. However, these are 1103 motors, which are totally fine for the prop size, but they're not fine, maybe, I don't know, I haven't tested bigger, but I would guess that they're not fine for the load on the motor, meaning the thrust actually doesn't unload off the props because it's blowing into the side of the ducts and all the stuff underneath the ducts. It's being restricted. And the reason why I'm really impressed with this stack is that, first of all, this thing does not perform well on 2S. It is a 3S quad, and I use these little 3S 450 milliamp batteries. They perform really well on the quad, even though the Tattoo batteries, I'm not really a huge fan of the Tattoo batteries in this particular size. However, they perform really great on this quad. And because this is running these prop guards and the thrust is being heavily blocked, the load on the ESC is much higher. And even though the flight performance is not good, that's not as a result of the ESC, that's more as a result of the drivetrain not being able to handle what's going on. And the ESC does dish out the power, and it does work really fantastic. I mean, it's totally stable when it's in control, when the flight controller is not fighting all of the inefficiencies of the frame. It is totally in control, and I am genuinely impressed with this stack. I am going to be using it on 3-inch open frame style quads. I do have some designs coming. I'm really looking forward to trying those out now, and this is really a beautiful little stack for the money. I mean, I'm so impressed with this stack. I really hope that it holds up to my expectations and performs as I'm hoping that it will perform. Now, do I recommend CineWhoops or this particular quad in general? I actually think this is a really good quad. This is one of the best CineWhoops that I've tried. I've tried like 4 of them, and I think that this is fantastic. I have tried the Mobula HD. I'll talk about that later, but I do definitely like this quad. I think the stack is super reliable. I think the Caddx camera works really well. The flight performance sucks, but they all suck, so whatever. And I also don't know why the actual genuine whoops, the smaller whoops, I can't figure out why those things actually fly really well, because they are in the same kind of class of being restricted, inefficient frame and all. However, they do weigh a lot less, and I don't know, I haven't really come up with any ideas or theories of why those things perform well, but things of this size that are brushless, that have a whole lot more power, just don't perform well at all. Do I recommend this quad? Do I recommend CineWhoops? And that's really up to you. Do you want something that has really, truly awful performance, that you can't do anything but float around slowly, and you have very minimal control, even minimal throttle control, but hey, you get HD footage that's sort of somewhat mostly usable, and yeah, so it's up to you if you think it's good value. I'm personally moving in a totally different direction. I'm moving into the open prop class of 3-inch and other size quads. There's going to be some really cool stuff coming. In other words, I'm not going to be discussing a lot of the things I'm working on anymore, because I'm just doing marketing for companies in China and other people to just piggyback off anything I say and getting people excited about it and just coming out with products to compete with whatever. So I'm not going to be sharing anything anymore until it's ready to go. So I do have a couple of products in the works, some of which I'm really, truly excited about because it really does meet a need that I think is there. And yeah, that's it for now. So I haven't even been in the city lately, and I just had like 5 minutes to make this video. So thanks for watching. Floss your teeth because that's really important. And